so proud of myself. Today I'm going to be doing my September wrap-up. Technically, this is also kind of like an August-September bind-up wrap-up because I just realized I did not post a wrap-up for August. These last 2 months have been awesome reading months. Like, I feel like almost every book I read was just so perfect, and I feel like the combination, like just like the variety of genres that I read these past 2 months, they just complemented each other perfectly. Without further ado, let's get into this. So I read a lot of books that I received for booktube tours. Surprisingly, like all of them were awesome. First book that I'm going to talk about because I just finished it literally 30 minutes ago. Dark Horses by, I just realized that I said her name wrong in the last video. I'm so sorry. But Dark Horses by Cecily von Ziegesar. This book was far better than I imagined it to be. Contemporary isn't my absolute favorite genre, but this is a contemporary book and it's about horses, or it has to do with horses. So it was kind of like two things that I don't usually go for when I'm reading books. I'm so happy that I reached outside of my comfort zone this month and decided to pick it up and read it and do the tour for this because it just was like, it was so good. This book is about a girl. She recently had a tragedy in her family and she is kind of has this post-traumatic stress from it and is just having a really hard time coping with it. So her parents sent her to Good Fences, which is like a therapeutic camp where you take care of a horse, but in the process it's kind of like it's a therapeutic thing. Our main character ends up meeting Red right over here. You only like see the eyeball. He was a racehorse. He was deemed unrideable because he was just like no one could ride him because he was like crazy. When I first started reading the book, okay, I did not realize it was told from two perspectives. So we have our main character, right? It started to freak me out because at first I'm just like, whoa, this is like the weirdest person ever. Why does he want someone to like ride on his back? But then I realized the second perspective is told from the horse. It was a weird adjustment for me at first because I'm just like, I've never read from the perspective of a horse. I mean, like, I have read from the perspective of animals, but it's been a long time, like back, you know, when I was like 8, 9, and 10. That, I slowly realized that the perspective of the horse was less like, you know, being told from the perspective of an animal and more just like this sort of outside point of view looking in on a situation because the horse was kind of like always around, which was so cool. The writing style, or like just like the plot line, not the writing style, but the plot line was extremely sad, and it reminded me a lot of Ellen Hopkins and how her stories don't always have happy endings, and I hate that but love that about this book. And there's also a giveaway going on for this book. There'll be a link down below if you want to enter to win a copy. The next book I read this month that was of this year, my most highly anticipated release for this year, and I finished it and it was beautiful and it did not disappoint me and it was just perfect and it was an 11, 12 out of 10. Furthermore, by Tahara Mafi. Oh my god, okay, as you guys know, Tahara Mafi is one of my top 3 favorite authors. It was like her series that she wrote, the Shatter Me series, just like connected with me on a level. When I heard she was releasing this new book, I was like, pre-order. It was pre-ordered instantly. I did not realize, you guys, that it was an Alice in Wonderland retelling story. Like, when I went into it, like, my friend actually had to tell me that, hey, this is an Alice in Wonderland retelling story. I love Alice in Wonderland, so it was like my favorite author retelling one of my favorite stories of all times, and it was beautiful, and I feel like there's a deeper meaning to the story, like there's a moral in it. It reminded me a bit of like Aesop's Fables meets Tahara Mafi's amazing writing meets just like this crazy world of Furthermore. This is a middle grade book, but do not let that dissuade you because I feel like anybody of any age could read this book because it's just one of those books that just makes you take a different perspective and look at life differently after you finish reading it. Next book I read this month, I already have a review up on and I've just talked about it so much, so feel free to skip past this part if you've just heard me review it a million times. It's Flawed by Cecily Ahern. Oh my god, okay. I need the second book. Someone told me that the second book is called Perfect and that it's gonna be coming out soon, and I'm gonna like bug the publishing agency and just be like, I need an arc of this. If the publishing agency is watching this, please, I would love an arc of the second book. Oh my god, Flawed. It has been a long time since I have read a dystopian book. Like the last, I can't even tell you what the last dystopian book I read was. You know what, actually, I feel like I'm gonna say like I haven't read dystopian books, but I may have just like read one like 2 months ago. Dystopian is life. This book is about this futuristic, a dystopian society in which everything is perfect, everyone strives to perfection, and if you make a mistake, you are branded as flawed. So mistakes in this society, like, You can't make them, okay? I feel like I would get branded immediately. Any sort of error in judgment and anything, you get branded as flawed and kind of discriminated against. Our main character, who's, you know, just been like the perfect child basically until she's put in this situation where she makes a morally correct and right decision, but in the eyes of the flawed court, it's seen as something that's bad judgment. Now facing possibly getting flawed, and it's so much bigger than this. Like, I don't want to spoil it for you because the story sounds very basic, but then once you get to the second half of the story, like, it just branches out and it just becomes like, oh my god, like conflict after conflict. Wonderful, and I want the second book right now because the way they ended it is they did one of those endings where they're like, okay, now you have to wait for the next book to find out what happens next. I'm just like, oh great, thanks. Last but not least, I read the first 2 books and half of the last book. I'm not done yet. Kiss of Deception series by Mary E. Pearson. This book, as well as Flawed, wrote books that I also received for book tutors, and oh my god, okay. Everyone has been asking me, Naya, did this series, or at least this series so far, has it lived up to the exponential hype that it has been given? Absolutely 100%. This series was so much more different than what I thought it was gonna be. Like, first of all, it is a high fantasy book, but for some reason I thought it was gonna be really complicated and complex, and that's kind of why I pushed it away and didn't read it when I first got the first book a while back ago, because I was just, you know, I thought it was gonna be quite a big commitment to get into the series. The series was surprisingly so easy to follow, you guys. Like, I read the first 2 books in a matter of like a week and a half. And I am halfway through the last book, and the only reason why I haven't finished it yet is because it is a mammoth compared to the first and the second book. On my, like, this is a series that I would recommend to people who love fantasy. People who love fantasy and want something that's not super complex, something that they can read when they're kind of half tired but still understand and get. I would totally recommend the Kiss of Deception series, okay? This book is about a girl. She is the Princess of Morgan, which is one little kingdom in this fantasy realm. She's being forced to marry the Prince of Dalbrek, who is like their enemy slash like frenemy kingdom, just to secure alliances. She does not want to marry the Prince of Dalbrek. She thinks he's kind of like this weird old, you know, middle-aged guy, and she's only 17, and she doesn't want to get married and have to go and live in enemy territory. I mean, you know, that's, you know, I don't think anybody would want to do that. She does what any princess would do, and she runs away. Runs away to this small city, and she kind of like restarts her life, so to speak. Here is the thing about the conflict. There is both the Prince of Dalbrek looking for her and going after her to try and find her and bring her back to, you know, marry her. But there's also an assassin that was sent after her to try and kill her from another kingdom that is just like wants them all dead. The prince and the assassin end up like both finding her at the same time and kind of like getting to know her before they both try to like do what they need to do, you know, which is kill her or bring her back. Multiple perspective book, right? Where it's like you don't know which one's the prince and you don't know which one's the assassin because they go by fake names. And so this entire time in the first book you're guessing and trying to figure out, okay, which one wants to kill her, which one wants to marry her, which one's trying to take her back, which one's trying to kill her. And it's so good, and in the process, you know, there's some romance and mixed feelings, and just, it's so good, you guys. In the second book, we get more to like the magical aspects of it, and I'm already halfway through the third book, and it is fantastic. Till next time, keep reading, and I'll talk to you guys later. Bye!